If you can't be happy alone, then you're not truly living, you're emotionally surviving. Because when you need love to feel valuable, friends to feel safe, and attention to feel seen, you become weak inside. You panic when people leave, you overthink when they change, and you feel empty when nobody texts you, and you call it loneliness. But the truth is, it's dependency. Buddhism teaches that this dependency is the root of suffering, not because love or friends are bad, but because when your happiness depends on people, you become their prisoner. You lose your peace, your focus, and your power. So if you're tired of feeling lonely, ignored, and incomplete, this video is for you. Today, you'll learn how to be happy even with no relationship, no friends, and no attention. And once you understand it, you'll never fear being alone again. 1. You were never meant to beg for love. One of the biggest reasons people suffer is because they chase love like it's oxygen. They start believing that love is something outside them, something they must earn, prove, and hold on to tightly. But Buddhism teaches that the real pain does not come from love itself, it comes from attachment. The need to be chosen, the fear of being replaced, and the constant anxiety of losing someone becomes the real source of suffering. When your happiness depends on another person, your peace is no longer in your control. You start overthinking every small thing. A late reply feels like rejection. A cold tone feels like the end. You begin to measure your worth by someone's attention, their effort, and their mood. Slowly, you stop living freely and you start living in fear. You become emotionally dependent, not because you are weak, but because your mind has been trained to believe that love is the only way to feel complete. But the Buddha never taught us to live like this. Buddhism is about freedom, not emotional slavery. Love that makes you feel desperate, anxious, insecure, and afraid is not real love. It is attachment wearing the face of love. It keeps you stuck because you are not chasing peace anymore. You are chasing someone's validation. Real happiness begins when you stop begging to be loved and you start practicing self-respect. This doesn't mean you become cold. It means you stop lowering yourself for people who don't value you. It means you stop accepting disrespect just to keep someone close. It means you stop calling emotional pain love, and you stop calling crumbs enough. Buddhism teaches impermanence, that everything changes. People change, feelings change, relationships change. So the wise person stops building their identity on someone else's presence. They stop depending on temporary love to feel permanent happiness. And when you finally understand that you don't need love to be whole, you stop feeling desperate. You stop chasing. You stop breaking yourself for attention. You become calm again. You become complete again. Because the strongest person is not the one who is always loved. The strongest person is the one who can stand alone and still feel peaceful inside. 2. Loneliness is not a curse. It's a mirror. Most people don't fear being alone because they truly hate solitude. They fear it because solitude exposes them. When you're surrounded by people, talking, laughing, scrolling, staying busy, your mind stays distracted. But when you are alone, the noise disappears, and suddenly you start hearing everything inside you. Your thoughts, your fears, your regrets, your insecurities, and the pain you've been hiding for a long time. This is why loneliness feels heavy for many people, not because being alone is dangerous, but because being alone forces you to face yourself. And the truth is, many people are not lonely because they have no friends. They are lonely because they don't know how to sit with their own mind without escaping. Buddhism teaches that suffering doesn't come from silence. It comes from the mind that cannot be peaceful. A restless mind will turn quiet time into pain. It will bring back old memories, old wounds, and old sadness. It will make you feel like something is missing. It will convince you that your life has no meaning unless someone is there to fill the emptiness. But loneliness is not here to destroy you. It is here to show you something important. It is a mirror that reveals what you still depend on. It shows you where you crave attention, where you need validation, and where you still believe you are not enough on your own. That's why loneliness hurts at first, because it points directly to the parts of you that still need healing. When you stop fighting loneliness and start understanding it, something changes. You begin to realize that this quiet space is not punishment, it is an opportunity. It becomes time to rebuild yourself, to reconnect with your heart, and to finally grow without distractions. And slowly, solitude stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like peace. You stop needing people to feel alive. You start enjoying your own presence. You start becoming your own friend. Because once you learn how to be comfortable with yourself, loneliness can never break you again. 3. You don't need friends. You need inner stillness. Many people think they want friends because they want connection, but deep inside, most people want friends because they don't want to feel alone. They want someone to talk to so they don't have to sit in silence. They want company so they can escape their thoughts. And that's why when friends leave, or when life becomes quiet, they feel empty and lost. But Buddhism teaches something deeper. If your peace disappears the moment people are gone, then your peace was never real. It was borrowed, it was dependent, it was built on outside support instead of inner strength. The Buddha didn't say you must live without people. Buddhism never teaches hatred, isolation, or becoming cold. It teaches balance and awareness. It teaches that friends can add happiness, but friends should not become your emotional survival. Because when you depend on friends to feel okay, you start forcing connections. You start tolerating disrespect. You stay in groups where you don't feel valued, just because you are scared to be alone. That's how many people lose themselves. They laugh when they don't feel happy. They stay silent when they feel hurt. They lower their standards just to belong. They accept fake friendships because they fear loneliness more than they respect their own peace. Buddhism teaches that the strongest kind of happiness comes from inner stillness. Inner stillness means you can sit alone and still feel complete. You can walk alone and still feel calm. You can eat alone, sleep alone, and live alone without feeling like life is punishing you. Because your happiness is not tied to people's presence, it is tied to your own awareness. When you build inner stillness, you stop chasing people. You stop begging for friendship. You stop trying to prove your worth. You become selective. You protect your energy. You start choosing peace over noise and real connections over fake company. And the beautiful part is this: when you become peaceful within yourself, you naturally attract better people. Because you no longer seek friends out of emptiness, you choose friends from wholeness. That is the Buddhist way, not needing people to feel complete, but appreciating them without losing yourself. 4. Stop seeking attention, start seeking awakening. One of the most silent addictions in today's world is not drugs, not alcohol, not money. It is attention. People don't always realize it, but many of their emotions rise and fall depending on one thing: how much they feel seen. A message can make them feel valuable. A compliment can make them feel powerful. A like, a comment, a reaction, or even someone simply noticing them can lift their mood instantly. And when that attention disappears, they don't just feel bored, they start feeling unwanted, unimportant, and invisible. This is why so many people suffer when they are alone. Because when there is no one watching them, no one texting them, no one calling them, they start questioning their worth. They start thinking, do I even matter? If nobody cares about me, what is the point? And slowly, attention becomes their proof of existence. But Buddhism teaches something very different. Buddhism teaches that when you keep seeking attention, you will never find peace, because attention is unstable. People's minds change quickly. Today they love you, tomorrow they forget you. Today they praise you, tomorrow they criticize you. Today they celebrate you, tomorrow they ignore you. If your happiness is built on attention, then your happiness will always be fragile. This is why Buddhism says craving is suffering. Craving attention is still craving. It keeps you restless inside. It makes your mind hungry. It makes you want more and more, even when you already have enough. And the problem with cravings is that they never truly satisfy you. You can get attention today and still feel empty tomorrow. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely inside. Because attention is not the same as deep peace. When you seek attention, you slowly start living like a performer. You begin to shape your personality based on what people like. You begin to post, speak, act, and even dress in ways that will get you validation. You start chasing reactions instead of truth. You start pretending you are okay even when you are not, just to keep your image strong. And this becomes exhausting because deep inside you are not living for yourself anymore. You are living for an audience. Buddhism teaches that this is not real living. Real living is awakening. Awakening means you stop needing people's approval to feel worthy. Awakening means you stop building your value based on external proof. Awakening means you become stable inside, no matter what the world does outside. It means you can be ignored and still be peaceful. You can be misunderstood and still be confident. You can be alone and still feel complete. The Buddha taught that your worth is not something people can give you. Your worth is already inside you. It is not created by attention, and it is not destroyed by neglect. But most people never discover this, because they spend their whole life chasing things outside themselves. So the moment you stop seeking attention, you start gaining something far more rare, inner power. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to feel calm without needing constant interaction. You begin to build a private life that feels meaningful, not a public life that looks impressive. You stop explaining yourself. You stop forcing people to understand you. You stop trying to be liked by everyone. And instead of being addicted to being seen, you become addicted to being free. This is where true happiness begins, because you are no longer controlled by people's reactions. If they praise you, you don't lose yourself. If they ignore you, you don't break. If they leave, you don't collapse. If they don't care, you still stand strong. Because you are no longer seeking attention, you are seeking awakening. And the biggest shift happens here. When you stop needing attention to feel valuable, you stop attracting shallow connections. You stop accepting fake love. You stop tolerating people who only come to you when it benefits them. You become more serious about your energy. You become more protective of your peace. You become more honest with yourself. And then you realize something powerful. Happiness was never meant to be loud. Real happiness is quiet. It's not found in being praised. It's found in being at peace. It's not found in being noticed. It's found in being free. So stop chasing attention like it is your identity, because attention can disappear in one day, but awakening stays forever. And the person who awakens becomes unstoppable, because they don't need anyone to clap for them to keep going. They don't need anyone to watch them to feel alive. They don't need anyone to choose them to feel enough. They are enough, in silence, in solitude, in stillness, in their own presence. That is the Buddhist freedom. 5. Happiness alone comes from non-attachment. If there is one Buddhist truth that can completely change your life, it is this. You don't suffer because you don't have people. You suffer because you are attached to needing people. You are not broken because you are alone. You feel broken because your mind is still holding on to a picture of how life should be. A picture where someone loves you every day. A picture where friends always stay. A picture where you are always important to someone. And when reality doesn't match that picture, the mind becomes angry, sad, and restless. This is where suffering starts, not from reality itself, but from attachment to expectations. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, and many people misunderstand it. They think non-attachment means you stop caring, you become cold, you become distant, or you live like you have no emotions. But that is not what it means at all. Non-attachment does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop clinging to them. It means you stop turning people into your emotional home. Because when you cling, you suffer. And the Buddha was very clear about this. Clinging creates pain because everything in life is temporary. People change, feelings change, relationships change. Attention changes. Even the person you love today may not be the same tomorrow. And even if they remain good, life itself can separate you. Time can separate you. Distance can separate you. Death can separate you. So when you build your happiness on something temporary, you will always live with fear underneath your smile. This is why some people are in relationships and still suffer. They might be together, but their mind is always scared. Scared of losing them, scared of being replaced, scared of being forgotten, scared of being cheated on, scared of not being enough. Even when they are loved, their mind cannot relax. That is not love, that is attachment. Non-attachment is different. Non-attachment is the ability to love without chains. It is the ability to care without begging. It is the ability to be close without losing yourself. It means you enjoy people when they are present, but you don't fall apart when they are absent. Because the truth is, attachment makes you weak. Not because you are a weak person, but because attachment creates dependence. It makes you think, I need them. It makes you feel like your life is incomplete without them. It makes you chase harder, tolerate more, forgive too easily, and accept disrespect just to keep the connection alive. And here's the sad part. When you are deeply attached, you don't even see people clearly anymore. You don't see their real behavior. You don't see their real effort. You only see the version of them that you are hoping for. You start loving potential instead of reality. You start holding on to memories instead of truth. You start staying for the good days while ignoring the damage of the bad days. That is why non-attachment is not coldness, it is wisdom. It is understanding that you cannot control people, you cannot force loyalty, and you cannot beg someone to value you. It is realizing that if someone truly cares, they will show it without you having to suffer for it. And if they don't care, no amount of begging will make them love you the right way. So the Buddhist way is simple. Love, but don't cling. Care, but don't lose yourself. Give, but don't destroy yourself. When you practice non-attachment, you stop making people your entire world. You stop building your identity around being someone's favorite. You stop living for a relationship status. You stop thinking that being single means you are failing. You stop seeing solitude as something negative. Instead, you begin to feel strong in your own presence. You start realizing, I can love people, but I don't need them to be okay. I can miss someone, but I don't have to chase them. I can be alone, but I don't have to feel empty. I can lose people and still have my peace. This is real spiritual maturity. Because happiness alone comes when you stop expecting people to complete you. People can support you, yes. People can add beauty to life, yes. But people cannot become the foundation of your happiness. That foundation must be inside you. And the moment you stop clinging, you start breathing again. Your mind becomes lighter. Your heart stops panicking. You stop overthinking. You stop waiting for people to return. You stop replaying old conversations. You stop checking if they viewed your story. You stop needing closure from people who never cared enough to give it. You begin to detach, not because you hate them, but because you love your peace more. And non-attachment gives you something that relationships cannot always give you: stability. Now, even if someone leaves, you don't collapse. You feel pain, yes, because you are human, but you don't lose yourself. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't forget your worth. You don't fall into darkness. You don't destroy your self-respect. Because you understand something powerful: everything that comes must also go, and clinging will only create suffering. So the happiest person is not the one who has the most love, the most friends, or the most attention. The happiest person is the one who has trained their mind to remain calm, even when life changes. That is why Buddhism says happiness is not found in holding tighter. Happiness is found in learning how to let go without breaking. When you master non-attachment, you become free. And once you are free, even being alone feels beautiful. Even silence feels safe. Even solitude feels like peace. Because now you are not dependent on anyone to feel complete. You are complete because you finally return to yourself. 6. Your mind is your closest companion. Buddhism teaches something that is simple but extremely powerful. You are never truly alone because you are always living with your own mind. People may leave, friends may disappear, love may come and go, attention may stop, but your mind stays with you every single day. It is the first thing you wake up with and the last thing you sleep with. It follows you in silence, it speaks to you in the dark, and it shapes the way you see yourself, the way you see life, and the way you feel inside. And this is why learning how to be happy alone is not really about life outside you, it is about what is happening inside you. Because when you are alone, you don't just feel the absence of people, you feel the presence of your thoughts. Some thoughts are calm, some are heavy, some are painful, some are full of fear, some are full of regret. And if your mind is not trained, being alone becomes difficult because your mind turns into a battlefield. Many people think they are suffering because they have no friends, no relationship, no love. But that is not the full truth. The deeper truth is that they are suffering because their mind is attacking them. Their mind is constantly repeating painful stories like, "Nobody cares about me. I'm not good enough. Everyone leaves me. I'll never be loved. Something is wrong with me." And when the mind repeats these thoughts every day, loneliness becomes painful, not because of solitude itself, but because the person is trapped with a mind that is not at peace. The Buddha explained this clearly. He taught that the mind can become your greatest enemy if it is full of ignorance, craving, and fear. But the mind can also become your greatest friend if it is trained with awareness and wisdom. So the real question is not, why am I alone? The real question is, what kind of mind am I living with? Because two people can be alone in the same room and have completely different experiences. One person feels depressed, anxious, and empty. Another person feels calm, peaceful, and safe. The difference is not the room, the difference is the mind. When your mind is untrained, it becomes restless. It creates problems even when there are none. It searches for things to worry about. It remembers old pain again and again like it happened yesterday. It imagines negative futures. It compares your life to others. It makes you believe that you are behind, that you are failing, that you are not enough. And slowly you become exhausted without even doing anything. This is why Buddhism focuses so much on mindfulness, awareness, and meditation. Because the Buddha knew that if you master your mind, you master your life. You stop being controlled by emotions. You stop being controlled by thoughts. You stop being controlled by cravings and fears. And one of the biggest cravings people suffer from is the craving to be loved, the craving to be needed, the craving to be important, the craving to be chosen. These cravings are not evil, but they create suffering because they make your peace dependent. They make you feel like your happiness must come from outside you. And when you don't get what you crave, the mind starts punishing you with sadness. But Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you find in people, peace is something you build in yourself. When you train your mind, you start becoming stronger from the inside. You begin to notice your thoughts without blindly believing them. For example, when the mind says, "Nobody loves me," you start recognizing it as just a thought, not a fact. When the mind says, "I'm not enough," you stop treating it like truth, and you see it as a passing cloud. Because in Buddhism, thoughts are not reality, thoughts are mental events. They come and go like waves. The problem is, most people don't watch their thoughts. They become their thoughts. They don't observe fear, they become fear. They don't observe sadness, they become sadness. They don't observe loneliness, they become loneliness. And that is why they suffer. But the Buddha taught awareness. Awareness means you become the watcher, not the prisoner. You sit with yourself, and instead of drowning in emotions, you notice them, you breathe, you stay present. You understand that every emotion, no matter how heavy, is temporary. It rises and it falls, it comes and it goes. This is where real freedom starts. Because once your mind becomes calm, your life becomes calm. Even if you are alone, you feel steady. Even if nobody texts you, you don't feel worthless. Even if you have no relationship, you don't feel incomplete. Even if the world ignores you, you still feel peaceful. And this is not because you have become cold, it's because you have become stable. The mind that is stable does not beg for love. It does not chase validation. It does not panic when people leave. It does not fall apart when plans change. It understands impermanence. It understands reality. And it understands that your true home is not in people, your true home is inside you. So when you are alone, Buddhism teaches you to use that time wisely, not to suffer, not to overthink, not to escape, but to build a relationship with your own mind, to clean it, to discipline it, to strengthen it, to make it peaceful. Because once your mind becomes your closest companion, you stop being afraid of solitude. You can walk alone and feel powerful. You can sit alone and feel calm. You can sleep alone and feel safe. You can live alone and still feel full inside. And the most powerful part is this: when your mind becomes your friend, people's absence will not destroy you. You don't need someone to save you anymore. You don't need someone to complete you anymore. You don't need someone to validate you anymore, because your mind no longer needs outside support to stay strong. That is real happiness alone. Not the happiness of being liked, not the happiness of being chosen, but the happiness of inner peace. Because in the end, no matter who stays or leaves, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with your own mind. 7. You were born alone, and that's your superpower. Most people grow up believing that being alone is a sign of failure. They think loneliness means something is wrong with them. They think if they don't have friends around them all the time, or a relationship, or a group that constantly checks on them, then their life must be empty. They look at others who seem surrounded by people, and they start comparing their quiet life to someone else's loud life. They start thinking, why is everyone moving forward while I'm stuck? Why does everyone have someone and I don't? Why do I feel invisible? And slowly, they begin to treat solitude like a curse instead of seeing it as something powerful. But Buddhism teaches the exact opposite. Buddhism teaches that solitude is not your weakness, it is one of your greatest strengths if you understand it correctly. Because the truth is, you were never meant to depend on people the way the world has taught you. You were never meant to hand your inner peace to someone else and pray they don't drop it. You were never meant to build your identity on attention, approval, or romance. You were meant to build something deeper inside yourself, something stable, something calm, something that cannot be destroyed just because life changes. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging. When you cling to people, you suffer. When you cling to outcomes, you suffer. When you cling to love, you suffer. When you cling to a version of life that you want, you suffer. And the reason people fear being alone is because it forces them to stop clinging. It forces them to face reality without distraction. It forces them to sit with themselves without using a relationship to escape their own mind, without using friends as a distraction, without using attention as proof that they matter. This is why many people avoid solitude. They don't avoid it because it is dangerous. They avoid it because it is honest. Solitude is a mirror that reveals the truth. It shows you what you really feel. It shows you what you've been hiding. It shows you what you've been avoiding. It shows you how much your peace has depended on others. It shows you how much of your happiness was borrowed instead of built. But once you stop seeing solitude as punishment and start seeing it as training, everything changes. Because solitude is not here to break you, solitude is here to build you. It is the quiet space where you stop performing. It is the empty space where you stop pretending. It is the silent moment where you stop running. And in that silence, you finally meet yourself again, not the version of you that people shaped, but the real version of you that has been buried underneath expectations, insecurity, emotional dependence, and fear of abandonment. Buddhism teaches impermanence, which means everything changes and nothing stays the same forever. People change, love changes, feelings change, friendships change, situations change. Even the happiest moments disappear. Even the strongest relationships can end. And the person who does not understand impermanence will suffer deeply because they will hold on to people too tightly. They will cling to relationships as if they are permanent, and then when change happens, they will feel like life is destroying them. But the person who understands impermanence becomes wiser. They become lighter. They learn to appreciate without attaching. They learn to love without clinging. They learn to enjoy without depending. And this is where your superpower is born. The moment you accept that you were born alone, you stop feeling ashamed of being alone. You stop acting like solitude is something you must escape. You stop chasing people just to feel normal. You stop forcing conversations that have no meaning. You stop begging for love that has no respect. You stop tolerating friendships that drain you. You stop being available for people who only come back when they need something. Because you start realizing something important. You don't need to be surrounded by people to be successful. You need to be surrounded by peace. You don't need a relationship to feel valuable. You need inner stability. You don't need attention to feel alive. You need self-awareness. And once you understand that, solitude becomes freedom. Most people are not scared of being alone. They are scared of losing their distractions. They are scared that without people, they will have to face their own mind. They are scared that in silence they will feel their wounds. They are scared that in solitude they will remember what they tried to forget. But Buddhism teaches that healing does not come from avoiding pain. Healing comes from observing pain with awareness. It comes from sitting with it, understanding it, and letting it pass. It comes from no longer fighting yourself. When you become comfortable alone, you stop making desperate decisions. You stop choosing the wrong people just to fill a gap. You stop entering relationships out of loneliness instead of love. You stop accepting disrespect just to avoid emptiness. You stop staying where you are not valued just because you are afraid of being alone. Because loneliness is temporary, but losing your self-respect can damage you for years. One of the biggest lessons solitude teaches is that you don't need a crowd to feel complete, because the crowd often hides your emptiness. People laugh in groups but cry alone. People post smiles but suffer inside. People seem surrounded but feel unseen. The world is full of people who have friends, lovers, attention, and social life, but still feel empty because their mind is not at peace. That is why Buddhism does not measure happiness by how many people you have. It measures happiness by the condition of your mind. If your mind is peaceful, you can live simply and feel rich. If your mind is restless, you can live in luxury and still feel poor inside. This is why solitude is such a powerful teacher. It teaches you to stop depending on the outside world for inner peace. It teaches you to build a home within yourself, and once you have built that home, no one can take it away. Solitude also teaches you how to become emotionally independent. Emotional independence is not hatred, it is strength. It means you don't collapse when people leave. It means you don't lose your identity when relationships end. It means you don't fall apart when you are not chosen. It means you can love deeply, but you can still walk away when love becomes painful. It means you can care, but you don't cling. It means you can miss someone, but you don't chase someone who doesn't respect you. This is a rare power. Most people never develop it. They keep repeating the same cycle. They meet someone, attach deeply, ignore red flags, give too much, get hurt, break down, and then run to the next person for healing. They never heal properly because they keep using people as medicine. And the painful truth is that people cannot heal what you refuse to face within yourself. Buddhism teaches that the real path is inward, the real work is inside, not chasing, not begging, not forcing, not proving, but becoming aware, becoming disciplined, becoming still. Because when you master your mind, you master your life. When you begin to walk alone, your life becomes more clear. You start recognizing what matters and what doesn't. You stop wasting time on shallow people. You stop entertaining fake energy. You stop giving your heart to anyone who shows small interest. You stop needing constant social validation. You start becoming selective. You start focusing on your own journey. And in that journey, you begin to discover that being alone is not emptiness. Being alone is space. Space to grow, space to heal, space to build your future, space to sharpen your mind, space to build discipline, space to master yourself. People who cannot be alone will always look for someone to save them. But people who can be alone become their own savior. They stop waiting for someone to rescue them emotionally. They stop waiting for love to fix them. They stop waiting for friends to complete them. They stop waiting for attention to make them feel alive. They start building their own strength, quietly. And the world does not understand this kind of person, because the world is addicted to noise. The world is addicted to attention. The world is addicted to being seen. The world is addicted to company. But Buddhism teaches that silence is powerful. It teaches that calmness is strength. It teaches that the mind that does not need external support is a liberated mind. This is why the Buddha spent time in solitude. Not because he hated people, but because solitude reveals truth. It removes illusions. It removes distractions. It removes ego games. It removes false identity, and in that quiet, wisdom grows. So when you are alone, you are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not unlucky. You are being trained by life. You are being tested. You are being prepared. You are in a season where you are being forced to become strong from the inside instead of comfortable on the outside. And yes, at first it hurts. At first, it feels empty. At first, it feels strange to not have someone to talk to. At first, it feels heavy to not feel chosen. But this is only because your mind is adjusting. You are detoxing from emotional dependence. You are breaking the addiction to validation. You are unlearning the belief that your worth comes from being wanted. This is why solitude is your superpower. Because in solitude, you stop being weak. You stop being needy. You stop being controlled. You stop being emotionally cheap. You stop being easily manipulated. You stop being easily hurt. When you need people, they control you. When you don't need people, you can choose them freely. You can choose them because they are good, not because you are lonely. You can choose them because they respect you, not because you fear silence. You can choose them because they add peace, not because you need distraction. And this changes everything. When you become happy alone, your standards rise automatically. You stop accepting less because you are no longer scared. You stop settling because you are no longer desperate. You stop chasing because you finally understand that peace is more valuable than attention. You stop begging because you finally understand that dignity is more important than temporary love. And here is what happens when you master solitude. Your energy becomes different. You walk differently, you speak differently, you move differently, you stop explaining yourself, you stop proving yourself, you stop trying to be liked by everyone. You become calm, you become grounded, you become quiet but powerful. And that is why people start respecting you more. Not because you demand respect, but because you no longer chase it. The world respects those who are not desperate. The world respects those who can walk away. The world respects those who can be alone without breaking. So yes, you were born alone, but that is not something to fear, that is something to remember. Because life was never designed to give you permanent people. Life was designed to give you growth. And growth does not happen in comfort. Growth happens in silence. Growth happens in solitude. Growth happens when you stop depending. So the next time you feel lonely, don't ask, "Why do I have nobody?" Ask, "What is this season teaching me?" Ask, "What strength is being built inside me?" Ask, "What part of me is being healed?" Ask, "What wisdom is being born?" Because solitude is not the end of your life, it is the beginning of your power. And once you truly understand this, you stop crying about being alone. You stop feeling ashamed. You stop seeing it as failure. You start seeing it as progress. You start seeing it as maturity. You start seeing it as awakening. You don't need friends to feel alive. You don't need love to feel whole. You don't need attention to feel important. You need peace. You need self-respect. You need a mind that is calm. You need a heart that is stable. And the moment you build that, you become unstoppable. Because now you cannot be controlled by people. You cannot be broken by rejection. You cannot be destroyed by silence. You cannot be manipulated by attention. You cannot be trapped by loneliness. You are free. You are free because you finally stopped running from solitude and you started using it to become stronger. And that is your superpower. Not needing people to complete you, but choosing people without losing yourself. Not fearing loneliness, but using loneliness to awaken. Not begging for love, but building peace. Not chasing attention, but mastering your mind. This is what it means to be happy alone. No friends, no relationship, no problem. Because when you find yourself, you don't feel alone anymore. You feel complete. 8. You don't need to be loved to feel worthy. You need to realize you already are. One of the deepest reasons people struggle to be happy alone is not because they truly need friends, relationships, or attention. The real reason is much more painful and much more hidden. Deep inside, many people believe a quiet lie about themselves. They believe that their worth depends on whether someone loves them. They believe that being loved is proof that they matter. They believe that being chosen is proof that they are special. And when nobody is choosing them, when nobody is calling them, when nobody is noticing them, they start feeling like they are not enough. This is why loneliness becomes so heavy for people. Because loneliness is not only the absence of others, it becomes a voice inside that says, maybe I'm not valuable. It becomes a thought that whispers, if I was important, someone would stay. It becomes an emotional wound that repeats, if I was lovable, my life wouldn't be this empty. And this is the most dangerous part, because now your mind is not just feeling alone, your mind is questioning your existence. Buddhism teaches that this suffering is created by illusion. It is created by a misunderstanding of who you truly are, because your worth is not something that comes from outside. Your worth is not something that enters you through someone's love, someone's attention, or someone's validation. Your worth is not created by a relationship status, a friend group, or a romantic connection. Your worth is something you were born with. It was never missing. It was only forgotten. The Buddha taught that our minds suffer because we cling to false identities. We create labels and stories, and then we start believing those stories are reality. A person will say, I'm alone, so I must be unwanted. Another person will say, I don't have friends, so I must be boring. Another person will say, I'm single, so I must be losing in life. And slowly, without realizing it, they turn a temporary condition into a permanent identity. They turn solitude into shame. They turn quietness into weakness. They turn independence into failure. But Buddhism teaches that life is not a story written by society. It is a journey of the mind, and the mind becomes free when it stops believing every thought it produces. Think about this clearly. Just because you are alone does not mean you are worthless. Just because you are not being loved right now does not mean you are unlovable. Just because you have no one beside you does not mean you have no value. These are emotional conclusions your mind creates when it is hungry for validation, and the mind becomes hungry when it believes it is incomplete. This is why many people become addicted to love, not because love is beautiful, but because love becomes their painkiller. Love becomes the thing that temporarily silences their self-doubt. When someone loves them, they feel alive. When someone wants them, they feel worthy. When someone misses them, they feel important. And when that love disappears, the wound returns. The same emptiness returns. The same insecurity returns. The same fear returns. So they chase love again. They jump into relationships quickly. They attach too soon. They ignore red flags. They tolerate disrespect. They accept bare minimum effort. They stay where they are not truly valued, just because being alone forces them to sit with their own mind. And their mind is not peaceful yet. Their mind is still addicted to external proof. But Buddhism teaches that the real solution is not to find someone who loves you forever. The real solution is to stop needing love as proof that you matter, because when you stop needing that proof, you stop suffering. This lesson is difficult for many people to accept because we are taught that love is everything. Movies, songs, society, social media, everything pushes the message that being loved is the greatest achievement in life. But Buddhism teaches that love without inner freedom becomes another cage. It becomes another attachment. It becomes another craving. And craving always leads to suffering. So what is the Buddhist answer? The Buddhist answer is awakening to the truth that your worth is already complete. You are not incomplete because someone left you. You are not incomplete because you are not being chosen. You are not incomplete because your phone is quiet. You are not incomplete because your life looks different than others. You are only suffering because you are measuring your worth by external things that were never meant to define you. In Buddhism, the mind is trained to see clearly, to see reality as it is, not as the ego wants it to be. And one of the greatest illusions of the ego is this belief: if they love me, I am valuable. If they don't, I am nothing. This belief creates emotional slavery, because now you will do anything to avoid being nothing. You will stay where you should leave. You will beg where you should walk away. You will accept disrespect where you should demand dignity. You will chase people who don't deserve you, because you are not chasing them. You are chasing the feeling of being worthy. But here's the truth. Worthiness is not something people give you. Worthiness is something you remember. This is why the Buddha emphasized inner awareness so much, because awareness gives you your power back. Awareness helps you recognize when your mind is lying to you. Awareness helps you see that you are creating pain by believing thoughts that are not real. For example, when your mind says, "No one loves me," awareness answers, "That is only a thought, not a fact." When your mind says, "I am alone, so I am weak," awareness answers, "Solitude is not weakness, it is space." When your mind says, "I need someone to feel okay," awareness answers, "I can breathe, I can be present, I can be okay right now." Oh, this is how you free yourself. And slowly, you start building a new identity. Not the identity of someone who needs love to survive, but the identity of someone who is stable even without love. The identity of someone who is calm even when they are alone. The identity of someone who does not panic when the world is quiet. Because the reality is, life will always have quiet seasons. Even if you are surrounded by people today, you will face moments where you are alone. Even if you have love today, you will face moments of distance and change. Even if you are important to many people today, you will face days where you are forgotten. That is life. That is impermanence. And the person who depends on people for emotional stability will always suffer when life changes. But the person who builds worth from within becomes unstoppable. Now, what does it actually mean to feel worthy without love? It means you stop searching for proof in other people's behavior. You stop looking at someone's attention like it is a score that decides your value. You stop needing someone to choose you to feel proud of yourself. You stop needing someone's compliments to feel attractive. You stop needing someone's presence to feel safe. Because you begin to realize that your soul is not a product. Your life is not a competition. Your value is not a vote. You don't need to be liked to be valuable. You don't need to be wanted to be worthy. You don't need to be chosen to be enough. You are enough because you exist. And when you finally accept that, something deep changes. Your energy becomes calm. Your heart becomes quiet. Your mind stops begging. Your emotions stop chasing. You stop feeling desperate. You start feeling powerful. Because now, love is not your survival. Love is just a bonus. And this is the healthiest way to live. When love becomes a bonus, you stop tolerating toxic love. You stop accepting mixed signals. You stop staying in confusion. You stop begging for clarity. You stop proving yourself. You stop losing sleep over someone's distance. Why? Because you finally understand that anyone who truly values you will not make you feel worthless. Anyone who truly loves you will not train you to suffer. Anyone who truly cares will not make you beg. So you stop begging. And this is what Buddhism calls dignity. Now, many people hear this and think, but if I stop needing love, will I become cold? No. You become clean. You become clean from dependence. You become clean from desperation. You become clean from emotional hunger. You become clean from the addiction to validation. And this cleanliness brings peace. Because real peace is not found in being loved. It is found in being free from needing love. And when you are free, you love better, you connect better, you choose better, you live better. Because now you are not using people to fill emptiness. You are sharing your fullness. That is the biggest difference. A person who is empty will use relationships as medicine. They will cling. They will fear loss. They will panic. They will become controlling. They will become jealous. They will become insecure. They will overthink. They will suffer even while being loved, because inside they still don't feel enough. But a person who is full will love peacefully. They will give without needing control. They will care without fear. They will connect without clinging. They will enjoy people, but they will not collapse if people leave. That is happiness alone. This is why Buddhism teaches you to stop treating love as your identity. Love is beautiful, but it cannot be your foundation, because foundations must be stable, and people are not stable. Their emotions change, their priorities change, their minds change, their lives change, their choices change. So your foundation must be something that cannot be taken from you. Your foundation must be your inner worth, your inner awareness, your inner peace. And when you build that, something incredible happens. Even if you are alone, you feel complete. Even if nobody texts you, you still feel valuable. Even if nobody chooses you, you still choose yourself. Even if nobody sees you, you still see yourself. This is real strength. And when you become this person, life becomes different. Not because the world changes, but because you change. You stop chasing what drains you. You stop settling. You stop accepting less. You stop giving your energy to people who don't deserve it. And you begin to attract better energy naturally, because the world treats you the way you treat yourself. If you treat yourself like someone who needs to beg, people will make you beg. If you treat yourself like someone who has value, people will respect your value. And even if some people don't, it won't destroy you, because your worth is no longer in their hands. So the real goal is not to be loved by everyone. The real goal is to be free from needing it, to be happy alone, to be calm alone, to be stable alone, to be proud of yourself alone. Because when you can do that, you become unbreakable. You become the person that cannot be controlled by silence. You become the person that cannot be manipulated by attention. You become the person that cannot be destroyed by abandonment. You become the person that cannot be crushed by rejection. Because you don't need anyone to confirm your value anymore. You already know. And that is what Buddhism is trying to teach you. Not to hate people, not to avoid love, not to isolate yourself forever, but to awaken to a truth that makes you free. Your worth is not something people decide. Your worth is something you remember. So if you are alone right now, don't treat it like an emergency. Don't treat it like failure. Don't treat it like life forgot you. Treat it like life is waking you up. Life is forcing you to stop begging. Life is forcing you to stop depending. Life is forcing you to stop chasing. Life is forcing you to look inside. Because once you find your worth inside yourself, you will never be afraid of being alone again. You will not chase love like oxygen anymore. You will breathe on your own. You will stand on your own. You will heal on your own. And from that place, love becomes something beautiful, not something you need to survive. That is happiness without friends, without relationships, without attention. That is happiness alone. That is awakening. 9. Your life is not missing people, it is missing purpose. One of the most painful illusions the human mind can create is the belief that happiness comes from having people around you. It makes you think that if you had a relationship, everything would feel better. It makes you think that if you had more friends, your life would finally feel exciting. It makes you think that if you had attention, validation, and love, your heart would finally become calm. So you begin to blame loneliness for your sadness, and you begin to see your solitude like a problem that must be fixed. But Buddhism teaches a deeper truth, a truth that many people ignore because it is too honest. Many people are not unhappy because they are alone. They are unhappy because they don't know what they are living for. They don't have purpose, they don't have direction, they don't have meaning, they don't have something that gives their life inner fire. They don't have something that makes them feel proud when they wake up. So their mind starts searching for people to fill that emptiness. This is why so many people jump into relationships they are not ready for. Not because the other person is perfect, but because they are trying to escape the uncomfortable feeling of having no purpose. They want love to distract them. They want friends to entertain them. They want attention to make them feel important. Because when you don't have meaning in your life, you start trying to become meaningful to someone else. You start trying to become someone's favorite, someone's priority, someone's everything. And that is dangerous. Because when you turn people into your purpose, you lose yourself. You stop growing. You stop building. You stop improving your mind. You stop focusing on your future. You stop developing discipline. You stop creating progress. You start living in emotional reactions instead of long-term purpose. You become focused on texts, replies, meetings, validation, memories, and feelings, instead of focusing on your path. Buddhism teaches that life is suffering when the mind has no clarity. When the mind has no meaning, it becomes restless, it becomes hungry, it becomes addicted to distraction. That mind will create sadness because it feels empty. And instead of filling that emptiness with something real, like spiritual growth, discipline, learning, health, inner peace, and service, the mind looks for the easiest way to feel good: people. But people cannot become your purpose. Because people are temporary, people change, people leave, people become distant, people get busy, people may love you today and ignore you tomorrow. And if your purpose is built on people, your purpose will collapse the moment they are gone. This is why a person without purpose will always suffer more when they are alone. Not because solitude is bad, but because solitude exposes the empty space inside. It reveals that they don't know what to do with their time. It reveals that they don't know what they stand for. It reveals that they don't have something meaningful pulling them forward. So the mind starts creating a desperate feeling, a feeling that says, I need someone. But what the mind is really saying is, I need meaning. Buddhism teaches that purpose is not about becoming famous. It is not about chasing money to impress others. It is not about proving your worth. Purpose is about inner direction. It is about waking up and knowing that your life is going somewhere. Even if you walk alone, your life has a path. Even if no one is clapping for you, you are still moving forward. Even if nobody is watching you, you are still building something inside. When you have purpose, your life becomes full even in silence, because you wake up with a mission. You wake up with something to improve. You wake up with goals that matter. You wake up with discipline. You wake up with a focus that keeps you strong. And when you have that, you stop needing people to fill the emptiness, because your time becomes valuable. This is why some people are alone, but they are glowing. Their eyes look peaceful. Their heart looks calm. Their energy feels strong. They are not lonely even when they are alone, because they are busy building their future. They are busy growing their mind. They are busy healing their heart. They are busy developing discipline. They are busy improving their body. They are busy learning. They are busy reading. They are busy building a life that feels meaningful. But other people are surrounded by friends and still feel empty, because even though they have people, they don't have purpose. They laugh, but inside they feel lost. They talk, but inside they feel nothing. They go out, but inside they feel drained. Because being surrounded doesn't fix emptiness. Only meaning fixes emptiness. Buddhism teaches that happiness is not something you get from outside. Happiness is something you create through inner clarity. And inner clarity comes from knowing how you want to live, what kind of mind you want to build, and what kind of life you want to create. When you are alone, you have a gift that most people waste. You have time, you have space, you have silence, you have freedom. You don't have constant distractions, constant drama, constant noise. This is your chance to build something rare, a mind that is stable and powerful. Because most people cannot sit alone with themselves. They panic. They feel bored. They feel useless. They feel anxious. They start craving attention. They start craving messages. They start craving love. They start craving social validation. But Buddhism teaches that boredom is a sign of an untrained mind. A trained mind does not get bored easily because it knows how to live consciously. It knows how to focus. It knows how to observe the moment. It knows how to find peace even in small things. Purpose does not need a crowd. Purpose does not need love. Purpose does not need attention. Purpose is private. Purpose is silent. Purpose is built in the dark. Purpose is built when nobody is watching. This is why the strongest people are often the ones who spent years alone. They didn't waste their loneliness. They used it. They used it to become disciplined. They used it to become mentally tough. They used it to become emotionally stable. They used it to become focused. They used it to build skills. They used it to grow quietly. So if you are alone right now, you must ask yourself an honest question: what is my life missing? Is it missing people, or is it missing purpose? Because sometimes the mind cries for people, but what it really wants is progress. It wants movement. It wants growth. It wants direction. It wants improvement. When you start building purpose, you stop craving attention, because your mind becomes busy. It becomes engaged. It becomes focused. It becomes proud. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes because you are building something. You stop begging for someone's time because your time becomes valuable. You stop overthinking about who left because you are too focused on where you are going. You stop replaying old memories because you are creating a new future. Purpose frees you from emotional hunger. This is also why people who have no purpose become easily attached. They cling faster because they have nothing else to hold on to. Their mind becomes desperate because their life feels empty. So they grab the first person who makes them feel something. They grab the first person who gives them attention. They grab the first person who makes them feel wanted. And then they suffer. Because they didn't choose love wisely, they chose love emotionally. They didn't choose connection with clarity, they chose connection with desperation. And that always ends in pain. Buddhism teaches that when you live without awareness, you will keep repeating the same cycle. You will attach, suffer, detach, heal, and then attach again. But when you live with awareness, you break the cycle. You become selective. You slow down. You stop chasing feelings. You start building your mind. So the Buddhist way is to make loneliness useful, not to see it as a punishment, but to see it as a sacred space to build yourself. You may not have love right now, but you have something more important. You have a chance to shape your life. Start building your purpose. Start building your discipline. Start building your daily routine. Start building your mind. Start building your body. Start building your spiritual practice. Start learning. Start reading. Start improving. Start working on something that matters to you. Because when you have purpose, you will not feel empty anymore. Even if you are alone, your life will feel full. Purpose gives you a quiet confidence. It makes you feel proud of yourself. It makes you feel grounded. It makes you feel like your life is moving forward, and that feeling is priceless. And here is the deepest truth. The moment you find purpose, you stop needing people to save you. You stop needing love to complete you. You stop needing friends to distract you. You stop needing attention to confirm you. Because your life is no longer empty. It has direction. It has meaning. It has something real inside. This is why Buddhism teaches that happiness is not found in external things. It is found in inner transformation. When you transform the inside, the outside cannot destroy you. So, let people come and go. Let relationships rise and fall. Let friendships change. Let attention disappear. Because the person with purpose will always stay strong. Even alone. Even in silence. Even when nobody understands them. Because they are not living to be surrounded, they are living to be awakened. And that is the highest happiness. Not the happiness of being loved by everyone, but the happiness of living with meaning. Not the happiness of being surrounded by friends, but the happiness of being connected to your own path. Not the happiness of attention, but the happiness of purpose. So if you feel lonely today, don't run from it. Don't beg life to give you people. Instead, ask life to give you purpose. Because purpose will fill you in a way people never can. And once your life has purpose, loneliness will disappear, not because people came, but because your mind is finally full. That is real happiness alone. That is the Buddhist way. That is inner freedom. 10. The moment you stop chasing, life starts giving you peace. There is a moment in every person's life where they get tired. Not physically tired, but mentally tired. Tired of chasing people, tired of being the one who always messages first. Tired of being the one who always tries to fix things. Tired of being the one who always cares more. Tired of being the one who always stays loyal while others stay careless. And in that moment, something inside them finally whispers the truth they were avoiding for years. I am exhausted because I keep chasing what was never meant for me. This is one of the most painful awakenings, but it is also one of the most powerful, because once you realize that chasing is what is draining you, you stop blaming your loneliness. You stop blaming your bad luck. You stop blaming your life. You realize that the real reason you feel tired and empty is because you have been pouring your energy into people who were never pouring energy back into you. Buddhism teaches that suffering is created by craving. The craving for love, the craving for attention, the craving for closeness, the craving for being chosen, the craving for someone to stay, the craving for someone to understand you, the craving for someone to hold your heart the way you always hold theirs. And when you crave, you chase. And when you chase, you suffer, because the mind becomes restless and dependent. This is why so many people cannot be happy alone. Their mind is always chasing something outside. They are chasing validation. They are chasing connection. They are chasing attention. They are chasing a love. They are chasing the feeling of being important. And because their happiness is tied to chasing, peace becomes impossible. Peace cannot exist in a chasing mind. Peace can only exist in a mind that has learned to stop running. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a wild horse. If you don't train it, it will drag you everywhere. It will drag you into overthinking. It will drag you into desire. It will drag you into jealousy. It will drag you into sadness. It will drag you into fear. It will drag you into the endless cycle of wanting more and more. And the mind will never say, enough. It will always say, just one more person, just one more message, just one more chance, just one more proof that I matter. And that is why people suffer. Because their hearts are not tired of love, their hearts are tired of chasing. They are tired of being emotionally needy. They are tired of feeling like they are never enough. They are tired of always hoping someone will change. They are tired of always waiting for a different outcome from the same people. They are tired of feeling small just to keep someone close. Chasing is not love. Chasing is fear. When you chase someone, you are saying, "I'm afraid to lose you." When you chase attention, you are saying, "I'm afraid to be forgotten." When you chase relationships, you are saying, "I'm afraid to be alone." And Buddhism teaches that fear is the biggest prison of the mind. Fear makes you cling. Fear makes you attach. Fear makes you tolerate pain. Fear makes you betray yourself. So the real transformation begins when you stop chasing, not because you are bitter, but because you are awake. You stop chasing because you finally see the truth clearly. You see that not everything you want is good for you. You see that not everyone you love respects you. You see that not every connection is meant to last. You see that you have been wasting your energy trying to hold on to people who were already leaving in their mind. And when you see this truth, a strange peace begins to enter your life. Not immediately, but slowly. At first it feels uncomfortable, because your mind was addicted to chasing. It was addicted to excitement. It was addicted to emotional drama. It was addicted to the highs and lows. So when you stop chasing, the mind becomes restless. It begins to panic. It begins to whisper, "What if you lose them forever? What if nobody comes? What if you stay alone? What if you regret it?" And this is where most people break. This is where they go back to chasing again. But Buddhism teaches you to stay still during this moment, to breathe, to observe, to not react, to watch the craving rise, and then watch it fall, because cravings are like waves. They come strong, but they don't last forever. You only suffer when you obey them instantly. When you stop chasing, you start facing the emptiness you were avoiding. You start feeling the loneliness you were covering. You start noticing the wounds you were distracting yourself from. And this is not bad. This is the beginning of healing. This is the beginning of truth. Because until you stop chasing, you can never truly heal. You can never grow. You can never build inner strength. You can only keep repeating the same cycle. This is why the Buddha taught that your suffering is not caused by people, it is caused by your attachment to people. People come and go, that is life. But your mind clinging to them is what creates pain. So what happens when you stop chasing? The first thing that happens is your mind becomes quieter. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop waiting for messages like your life depends on it. You stop overthinking what they meant by one word. You stop reading between lines. You stop feeling anxious when someone is distant. You stop feeling desperate when someone changes. Your nervous system finally relaxes. And you don't realize how stressed you were until you finally stop chasing. Then something else happens. You start regaining your self-respect. You start remembering your value. You start remembering that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You start realizing that the right people will never make you chase them. The right people will not make you beg. The right people will not make you feel like you are hard to love. Chasing drains your dignity. It makes you feel weak. It makes you feel needy. It makes you feel like you are always behind. But when you stop chasing, dignity returns. You start walking like you respect yourself. You start speaking like you know your worth. You start acting like your peace matters. And that dignity becomes your protection. Buddhism teaches that peace comes when you accept reality. And reality is this: you cannot force someone to care. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot force someone to value you. You cannot force someone to understand your heart. You can only control one thing: your mind, your reactions, your decisions, your boundaries, your awareness. When you stop chasing, you are choosing reality over illusion. You are choosing truth over fantasy. You are choosing peace over attachment. And then something even deeper happens. You begin to see the difference between love and attachment. Love feels calm. Love feels safe. Love feels respectful. Love does not make you anxious. Love does not make you beg. Love does not make you feel like you have to compete for attention. Love does not make you feel like you will be abandoned any moment. Attachment feels like fear. Attachment feels like obsession. Attachment feels like overthinking. Attachment feels like emotional dependency. When you stop chasing, you start detaching from attachment. And detachment does not mean you stop caring. Detachment means you stop suffering for what is not yours. You stop suffering for someone who doesn't value you. You stop suffering for people who don't choose you. You stop suffering for attention that disappears. You stop suffering for love that is not stable. This is freedom. Now, many people believe that if they stop chasing, they will end up alone forever. But Buddhism teaches something surprising. When you stop chasing, you stop attracting wrong people, because wrong people are attracted to desperation. They are attracted to weakness. They are attracted to someone who will keep giving without balance. They are attracted to someone who will stay even when disrespected. But when you stop chasing, you become a different person. Your energy changes. You become stable. You become calm. You become self-respecting. You become peaceful. And that kind of energy attracts better energy. It attracts people who don't need you to beg, people who don't play games, people who don't manipulate, people who don't treat you like an option. So life starts giving you peace because you stopped giving your peace away. You stopped giving it away to people who didn't deserve it. You stopped handing your heart to anyone who showed small interest. You stopped making yourself available to those who only came when convenient. You stopped sacrificing your self-respect just to keep someone close. And in that space, peace grows. Because peace needs space. A mind that is always chasing is full of noise, full of anxiety, full of hunger, full of fear. But a mind that stops chasing becomes still, and that stillness becomes your home. This is why people who are truly happy alone are not people who had perfect relationships. They are people who stopped chasing people who couldn't love them correctly. They stopped wasting their energy. They stopped chasing attention. They stopped chasing approval. They stopped chasing the wrong love. They chose peace. And that is the moment everything changes. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to value your solitude. You begin to feel strong without needing a crowd. You begin to feel proud without needing compliments. You begin to feel complete without needing someone's presence. You start becoming the kind of person who doesn't fear loneliness anymore because you understand that loneliness is better than losing yourself. You understand that being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel invisible. You understand that silence is better than fake conversation. You understand that solitude is better than disrespect. And once you understand this, you will never chase again. Because you finally learned the truth. People who are meant for you will never require you to chase them. Love that is real will never make you beg. Connection that is healthy will never destroy your peace. So if you want happiness alone, stop chasing. Stop chasing texts. Stop chasing love. Stop chasing attention. Stop chasing people who don't choose you. Stop chasing people who only value you when you are useful. And start chasing something real. Start chasing inner peace. Start chasing self-respect. Start chasing awareness. Start chasing discipline. Start chasing purpose. Because when you chase the right things, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. And when you find yourself, you stop feeling empty. You stop feeling lonely. You stop feeling desperate. You stop feeling like you need someone to save you. Because you realize you were never meant to chase love like oxygen. You were meant to breathe on your own. That is the Buddhist path. That is freedom. That is happiness alone. So now you understand the truth most people never learn. Happiness is not something you find in love, friends, or attention. Happiness is something you build inside your own mind. People come and go, feelings rise and fall, relationships change, and the world can turn its back on you in one moment. But if your peace is coming from outside, then your peace will always be temporary. Buddhism teaches that the real problem was never being alone. The real problem was believing you needed someone to feel complete. That belief made you beg, it made you chase, it made you settle. It made you accept less than you deserved. It made you call pain love and call disrespect normal. But the moment you wake up, everything changes. You stop asking people to choose you because you finally choose yourself. When you stop chasing love like oxygen, your mind becomes free. When you stop fearing loneliness, solitude becomes your power. When you stop seeking attention, you gain inner stillness. When you stop clinging to people, you discover non-attachment. When you train your mind, you stop being controlled by emotions. When you find purpose, your life stops feeling empty. And when you stop chasing, life starts giving you peace. And this is the real secret of being happy alone. You stop treating loneliness as a punishment, and you start treating it as a path to healing, a path to strength, a path to discipline, a path to awakening. Because the strongest person is not the one who always has someone beside them. The strongest person is the one who can stand alone, smile quietly, and still feel whole inside. So, if you are alone right now, don't hate this season. Don't beg life to give you people. Let this season build you. Let it shape you. Let it train your mind. Let it bring you back to yourself. Because one day you will look back and realize the time when you had nobody was the time you became unstoppable. You don't need friends to be happy. You don't need love to be worthy. You don't need attention to feel alive. You only need a peaceful mind. And once you have that, nothing can take your happiness away.